Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Thursday, December 11th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 21 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again absolutely free. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words HeartLand RMA Forgiveness. If you choose to do that, it'll let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Trigon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives. And secondarily, because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. If you have any of those to share with us, we'd appreciate you doing so. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, and or you can email Jeanie at jeanie@whyagain.org. That's whyagain.org. Or you can join us live most weekdays from 11 a.m. till noon Central Time. Go to zoom.us and request to join the meeting. The meeting ID number for the first hour is 853-2357-4173. That's 853-2357-4173. And we greatly appreciate whenever anybody does that, because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention we have with this work is to be of service, and that's just a boatload easier to do when we know how these things are landing for you. So we have plenty of time for comments, questions, answers, testimonials, suggested topics on this Thursday morning. And if we have someone who'd like to do a piece of work, we're happy to do that. I'd like to mention once again that even if I seem to be in the middle of reading something or in a monologue on a roll, we greatly appreciate when people speak up and ask a question, because that greatly increases the probability that the content of the show will be of higher quality. So please feel free to speak up. You know, one of the things that strikes me as I listen back to the shows over time is how often things people say, I heard so-and-so say this and that. And it's shocking. It gets me every time it happens. When I was at the original event, how different my impression was, or the words I heard, or the meaning I gave to those words is, compared to the reports we get second and third hand. And this is why I so often, when people ask a question, I'll ask them to define their words or define the meaning that they ascribe to a particular word and the context in which that makes sense, so I can have a chance to verify or validate with that person what are they really trying to say. And the other thing is, I have a bit of a pattern showing up where when I'm reading something, a few days or weeks later, I'll hear somebody talk about it, and they'll say, you know, Dr. Tim said this, when maybe I was reading from a Guy Finley or a Alan Watts reading or a Krishnamurti reading, and in the mind of the person who's reporting it, I'm the one who came up with that, and I'm the one who said that, or this is what I believe to be true. And when I keep trying to reinforce with my words around this is, the kind of thing I frequently say to new patients, I don't even try to be right every time I open my mouth. What I try and do is make sure that I'm not inadvertently doing the same thing over and over again or saying the same thing over and over again without getting the results I want or without having it, you know, resonate a deeper clarity and understanding. And when I present something like the Krishnamurti writings, it's not because this is pure truth, it's just because as I engage in readings like that, my mind gets open to questioning. Krishnamurti would be, go ahead.
I did, I'm interrupting you.
Go ahead.
You're talking about giving things meaning. Yesterday's Krishnamurti, I loved it, and I was blown away by it. But the residue afterwards was, if I don't have whatever it is, presence, consciousness, egolessness, whatever it is, he used the word evil, didn't he? A lot.
Did he use the word evil a lot?
Yeah, did I just make that up?
Well, it's not, you know, resonating in my mind. Of course, I can go back and reread the section from yesterday, which is what I normally do with these kinds of things, is read them over and over again.
Yeah. Well, you know,
so
Michael...
finish the thought you had about if he used the word evil a lot, what do you make that mean?
Well, I was going to say, Michael talks about how the original teachings of Jesus got all screwed up so that the church teaches that we are originally sinners and need redeeming, that we are basically bad until we get rescued by an external force. And I was thinking, how is this different from Krishnamurti, who's basically saying anything other than the purest something or other? Now I'm putting the word evil, and maybe I didn't go back and listen. It's been crazy, and I didn't go back and listen to it. But I felt as if, in a way, he was saying the same thing, that there's not much wiggle room. We have to absolutely become present, conscious, and then we're love. And everything else not only is false, but it's us who's being false, and we are rotten to the core.
What does that mean, we are rotten to the core?
No help. No help of
what does that mean, we are rotten to the core?
You know what it means. We're just lousy, bad, irredeemable people, except somehow if we do something absolutely right.
You mean in the teaching of the church?
And Krishnamurti.
No, I wouldn't go there with any of his talks.
All right. Well,
so when we're looking at the reading from yesterday,
yeah.
Wow. So I just did a search of the Kindle version, which is what I was reading from.
Oh, yeah.
And as I searched for the word evil, it's nowhere in what I read yesterday. The word evil isn't anywhere. Now, the word hate,
hate. That's what it was?
Okay.
Okay, big translation went on there overnight. Yeah. Hate. And hate is bad. That's my interpretation. That's what I thought he was saying. We do it, we are it, until we can clean ourselves up somehow by some kind of what?
Let me just interrupt and ask you to just soften and breathe here a little bit, because if at any point in time the primary message I was getting from Krishnamurti was anything about being bad or broken, or I would not have been attracted to the work, to his teaching. And so I don't know what's happening inside your own mind to help you generate that, but I would encourage you to soften and breathe and question it, and understand that in all of the writings, in all of the audio files I've listened to of Krishnamurti over the years, since back in the early 80s, I don't remember ever hearing him berate anybody as bad or as, horrible. I only hear him calling us to just question it for ourselves, and to not look to an outside authority, or an outside authority that might label us as bad or wrong or evil. So that's where I would start, Susan, is to just soften and breathe into that, and then read it again, or ask me to read it again, so that you can, have that different filter on, or that different level of openness as you hear it.
Good. Well, I was going to ask you if you were drawn to reading it again today, but there are other people on the show who might want to do other stuff. I get it. And I haven't found it myself to read it myself.
Well, this particular segment is titled The Process of Hate.
Okay.
And it's a dialogue between a woman who was a teacher and had been in the past. She currently wasn't teaching, but she'd been in the past. And she was affectionate and kindly, and yet, having taught for over 25 years and been happy in it, after the fact, and towards the end of it, she just really wanted to get away from teaching and the whole thing. And not now recently, but recently, prior to, not long before she sat down with Krishnamurti to have the conversation, she'd begun to realize that she had hatred buried in her. So it's not Krishnamurti telling her that she's hateful or that she's wrong for hating. It's her coming to him saying, I've had this deep-rooted hatred I just discovered, and it's been there all my life, and I never noticed it, or I always thought it was something else. So he's just engaging with her in an exploration of what is love, what is hate, what do we do with our minds, what is our thought convincing us about? And it's just a little walk in the park, essentially, with ideas and observation. So I have it up here. I could reread it if that's of interest to you.
Well, it is to me, but it's up to everybody else too. I'm glad you reminded me. I'd forgotten about that woman and the story. I'd forgotten that the word was hate. And I was really riding hard on that, because I thought, I have a lot of hate in me. When I was little, my mother once said to me, you are a very critical little girl, aren't you? Yeah, never forgot that. She was right. And then I thought, where did that come from?
Yeah,
Anyway.
but is that, her meaning of the word is one thing. We'll not know what that was. What did you make it mean when she used the word critical? Did you make it mean something bad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I'm judgmental of other people.
Okay, but was it? Was it really bad? Were you bad? Probably not. What were you? You were probably intelligent. You were probably questioning. I just saw a thing from one of the British comedy shows where they said, the average number of questions that a 3 or 4-year-old asks is like 100 every few minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
And so maybe you were one of those bright, inquisitive people, and you were a child at the time, but you're still a person, and the questions you asked and the evaluations that you held things up for were probably not easy or comfortable for the adults in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Because as Michael points out so often when he's talking about this thing, kids don't have filters until the filters have been trained into them or punished into them.
Mm-hmm.
So I would encourage you to reevaluate that and maybe do some worksheets or journaling around this memory you have of your mother telling you that you're a very critical person, and just unravel what you downloaded from that as a belief about yourself that, of course, then gets reinforced over the years. And we recruit other data points to either validate a conclusion we're holding or try to call it into question. So do that.
Mm.
If you're so inclined, right? I mean, like what? Here you are, fully an adult. You feel like an adult these days, don't you?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
So here you are, fully an adult, and you're still out there reading, questioning, learning, striving to be the kind of person that you would like to be.
Right.
That's probably all of those characteristics I just listed are probably what went into your mother's assessment, that she crunched down to the word critical.
Mm. Who knows?
Well, I'm telling you, you can know this. People, other people as adults in your life today can know this and help you evaluate or question those conclusions you downloaded, because if they're negative, in this work my observation is it's false if it's negative. And if you're carrying that around and pouring your mind energy into it, you're creating disruption in your life where you don't need to.
I just don't, I'll think about this stuff because I was exhilarated during that reading yesterday. I thought, I'm getting permission somehow to do what Carl Jung says we must do, bring the shadow right out there into the open and have a good look at it.
Exactly.
And so I was loving the permission to do that. And I remembered, as I mentioned, Erica Vega saying, I get to hate this person. She had lost this baby and she was mad and jealous.
And her mother. As soon as she lost the baby, a week later, so later, she found out her mother had terminal cancer.
Oh, I'd forgotten that.
And then she used the experience to pull herself together out of her grieving, put her grieving aside, to be there for her mother. Mm-hmm. And it dawned on her, you know what? I don't like this, but it's a privilege that I get to be here for this woman. And it was a privilege that I got to be there for my daughter.
That's wonderful how she
chose that interpretation.
Yeah, she chose it. She made it a good thing. But I love that she really gave it full credence during the hate time. She didn't pretend or gloss over, people who are in the spiritual life often get all barfy and flowery and act spiritual and speak in whispery voices and look beautiful, and I want to kill them because I'm saying, where the hell is your dark self, because it's right there. Nobody gets away without having one. So come clean, darn it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I want to kill him.
All right.
What a lovely, lovely thing to take a look at and see how am I generating such antagonism and negativity towards people. In the next moment, right after I talk about how I'm really interested in seeing us all as beings of brilliance and light and our true nature is love, and then I see somebody do something that I think is inappropriate, and here comes an old conditioned response.
Tons of them. Yeah.
And that thing that you just said, I just want to kill him, it can't come into being unless you're living through comparison.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And as Guy Finley says, the vast majority of your negative emotional experiences are the bitter fruit of a comparative life. Whenever you compare yourself to anyone or anything else, even an ideal or a should, you're creating suffering in your life. And
right.
It's an option. I mean, you have the free will to do that. It's just not recommended. And it's certainly not mandatory.
That's where Krishnamurti came in. He says something like, as soon as you have a thought, you are in hatefulness. No, that's my remembering, and it may be totally off.
Okay, so let's just read it. Let's just go through it again and see what we come up with.
Okay.
She was a teacher. This is titled The Process of Hate. And again, this is just a segment from the book near the beginning of the book, Commentaries on Living, Series 2. And it's, has Krishnamurti as the author, but I believe he's, I think somebody created this book, edited it out of the transcripts of conversations that he'd had with people. So he writes, she was a teacher, or rather had been one. She was affectionate and kindly, and this had almost become a routine. She said that she'd taught for over 25 years and had been happy in it, although towards the end, she wanted to get away from the whole thing. Recently, she'd begun to realize that what it was that was deeply buried in her nature. She had suddenly discovered it during one of her discussions, and it had really surprised and shocked her. It was there, no doubt about it. It wasn't a mere self-accusation. And as she looked back through the years, she could now see that it had always been there. She really hated it. It was not hatred of anyone in particular, but a feeling of general hate, a suppressed antagonism towards everyone and everything. When she first discovered it, she thought it was something very superficial, which she could easily throw off. And yet, as the days went on, she found that it wasn't just a mild affair, but a deep-rooted hatred, which had been going on all her life. What shocked her was that she had always thought she was kind and affectionate. Love is a strange thing. As long as thought is woven through it, it is not love.
There you go.
Now, here's a point that you were just making. Right? The very presence of thought woven through love indicates you're not connected with this energy of love. You're just focusing on thought. And thought, in so many of Krishnamurti's other writings, he says things, or talks, he says things like, the word is not the thing. The thought is not the thing. Your thoughts about a thing, your thoughts about yourself are not true, and they are not your essence. So, when you think of someone you love, that person becomes the symbol of pleasant sensations, memories, images, etc., and that is not love. Thought is sensation. right? Think about that for a minute. Just rest into that. If you have a thought about something, what's happening? How do you know you're having a thought? You're having sensation at a different level. Not the same kind of sensation as your hands clapping or, someone touching you, and yet just observe this for yourself. Here's a clue that one of the fellow travelers through time and space and the spiritual journey have left for us, and it's Krishnamurti, who says, you know what? I think if you look at this, you might find that thought is sensation, that it has a level of sensation to it, and it just spins, like Guy Finley says. It's that mechanical level of mind that's just there churning and going nowhere, like the dryer on a, or the washer on a spin cycle. It just keeps going round and round and round, and that is not love. He goes on here and he says, the very process of thinking is the denial of love. What does that mean? Let that sink in for a minute. So what is love? Love, we have this word love, right? What does it mean? You can't really define it. You can talk a lot about what it isn't. But at some level, some people describe it as all that is. God is love. God is all there is. So what about energy? It's all just energy at a certain level. It's like that, the essential energy. It's the energy that makes up everything else. So if that's what love is, right? Just a few words, the energy that makes up everything else. If that's what love is, it goes way beyond any words you can create for it. So the next line here he says is, love is the flame without the smoke of thought, of jealousy, of antagonism, of usage. These are things of the mind. So here's a piece of the poetry, deep poetry to my way of thinking, that comes up in Krishnamurti's talks and writings. Love is the flame. It's just the power of, think about a flame. Think about a fire. Well, where's the real power? Where's the real essence of it? Is it in the smoke? No. Is it in the glow of light coming off of it? No. It's in that, the essence of this dynamic unfolding of energy. And if I back away from that and create thoughts about it, I'm denying it, I'm distancing myself from it, I'm attacking it, depending upon how you want to look at it. So again, here's this little sentence. Love is a strange thing. As long as thought is woven through it, it is not love. When you think of someone that you love, that person becomes the symbol of pleasant sensations, memories, images, and yet that is not love. That's your set of thoughts, memories, resonance from the past that you bring up when you think about the person. The love is the actual essence of energy that gave rise to them and you and connects you both. Then he says, the very process of thinking is the denial of love. In other words, I'm not in the moment, I'm thinking about the moment. Guy Finley has all these different stories where he talks about people and they walk around the corner and the vista opens up, or they see something they can't even imagine, and they just go blank. They just go empty, because what they're looking at, what they're experiencing in the interaction with life in that moment is beyond words. It's so new they haven't formulated words for it yet. That's the experience in the moment. That's life, that's love. Now, my thoughts about it, they aren't the same. And if I back up to have thoughts about something, I'm not staying in the moment. So then he says, love is the flame without the smoke of thought, without the smoke of jealousy or of antagonism or of usage. And these are all things of the mind. And he says, as long as the heart is burdened with the things of the mind, there must be hate. For the mind is the seat of hate. The mind is the seat of antagonism and of opposition and conflict. Thought is reaction. And reaction is always, in one way or another, the source of enmity. Thought is opposition. Hate. Thought is always in competition, always seeking an end. Success, its fulfillment is pleasure and its frustration is hate. Conflict is thought caught in the opposites. And the synthesis of opposites is still hate, it's antagonism. Now, is any of that true? No, they're just words. And yet, as in most of his talks, Krishnamurti is calling us to question for ourselves, what happens when I get into my head and my thought? And again, here's Dr. Michael Ryce, who says if you want to heal, you've got to be out of your mind. You've got to, do what I put in the forgiveness pattern. I put my conscious logical mind on the shelf for now, and I ask to be shown some other way to interface with life in this moment, other than through my thoughts about it. How's that sitting for you, Susan B?
It's sitting. It reminds me, it seems as if he missed a step in there. The step is separation. Once separation has occurred, I don't even know the word. Once we are separated, then hate, comparisons, wants, dislikes, all that stuff has room to flower.
Yes, and I believe if Krishnamurti were here, he would say, thought is the first step in that separation.
Right, but it is the separation who comes before the thought, doesn't it?
No. No, because we're not ever really separated. We just imagine that we are, and then we create words for it.
So the imagining that we're separate is already a thought.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Because the truth is, are you separate? Can you ever be separate or separated from the energy that created you and the people around you? No, all the great minds tell us, all the science is giving us different ways to validate it with our measuring devices. There is no separation. There's only dreams about separation. There's only beliefs and thoughts.
So in a way, we're saying that to be separate is to be mentally ill. Like
there you go. Exactly. If you read enough Krishnamurti, you listen to it, that's the kind of thing you'll hear. Right on.
Okay. All right.
Yes, Krishnamurti was one of the first people who, as I read him, I was ushered into the awareness of how sick our culture is, how illogical, how violent, how idiotic at times the very structure of our culture is. So, should I go on?
You don't need to. It's fine if you do, and it's very interesting, but I'm wondering where everybody else is on this or how they felt about yesterday.
Well, everybody has the option to unmute and speak up.
All right, guys.
I wasn't here yesterday, so thank you for this. So I appreciate that. Very interesting that you brought up to be separate is to be mentally ill. And back to thought is separation, I believe.
Well, but to help us, or let's help you say this a little bit more accurately, we are never separate or separated. So to believe we are separate is the mental illness.
Exactly, and very interesting because this piece right here is up in front in my field. because, I said, I just found out recently that my brother is in a mental institution, which I have to go find all the detail around that. He's been there for some time. The last couple of years, I haven't been in contact. And in my entire family system, there is, in my direct family, lots of the members that would, in this illusion, would be deemed mentally ill. So I've been inquiring the question, what is that reflecting in my world? What am I not seeing? What is it showing me? So this is exactly on time, because I'm mentally ill every time that I believe that I'm separate.
You know, Susan, I noticed you weren't there yesterday, and I thought, darn, I need to know what Susan is getting from this, because I just thought you'd have a take. Well, anyway, I'm going to mute myself again. Carry on.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. Thanks for not seeing me and noticing I wasn't here yesterday. Yeah, I know yesterday I just wanted to, I knew it was a call, I breathed. I was in breathing mode, just being with myself. But this is very interesting, and I feel deep excitement that this is a big clue for me. So I just being present, what I wrote down, what was being read, and so many golden nuggets. Holy cow! Like love is the flame without smoke of thought, and for me, I heard.
I'm chuckling here. You say, let me just stop you so I don't lose what you're saying. I'm chuckling here as you say that because
that's not what he said.
I believe. Oh yeah, you're right on. This is
okay.
Just a random thing in my head, and I'm going to look it up here so that I don't misspeak. I'm fairly certain that one of Krishnamurti's books is titled. Let me just look it up here real quick so I don't misspeak.
How fortunate we have to have this soul drop in with this information for humanity.
Yes. He has a book titled The Flame of Attention. And just think about it. When we build, when we perfect our ability to be attentive, it's like a flame that burns through all of the chaff, right, and cuts right to the core.
Mm-hmm. This is so exciting for what I'm going through right now, because I'm really landing into the body, the sensation, and I loved also what was said. That you said, this is really important for me, thought is sensation. It's a form of sensation. It's not who I am, it rises, and when I was in the body yesterday, I just observed sensation, no attachment to it. And this morning is very interesting, because I can actually feel my brain, I can sense, I want to say for me, sense, I can sense the brain, the left and right hemisphere. I can actually sense the central nervous system. Like this subtle level of awareness in this body, I've never been here before. And just
it's an
being
exploration, right?
Yeah, huge. And just being with what is, and not formulating any sensation of thought. And I realize the body knows it will take care of itself. I can rest into the present moment and allow what is to be revealed, and just being present with what is. So that's really exciting. And then now, because I've been asking, and I got a mind shifter because yesterday on the radio show around this mental illness, and even on Thursday when we had that, that was my mind shifter, and I went unconscious, literally, to sleep. I couldn't stay awake when I was writing the mind shifter. And then I also been doing a mind shifter of with this brother, and the thought forms coming out are just full of hateful thoughts.
Say that again. They're just what?
They're full. The thought forms coming out when I'm doing the mind shifter, because I think my mind shifter was, I'm going to go back to it. It is safe, easy, and healing for me to receive and process all the unconscious thought forms related to Werner, which that's my brother. And doing that, the most hateful thought forms, 4 pages, and then I had to stop for a bit because I got a phone call. I'll do it some more, but it is, the most hateful thought forms. And so that's whirling around in this physiology. And then I could feel brother who was beaten by father, Werner, beaten by my dad. And then I could feel the thought forms of my father who was adopted, that was beaten by his adopted father. And what would have been, they would have been marinated in, as well as self. And those sensations are not true. And to what Susan said when her mother said, "Oh, you're a critical little girl, aren't you?" Just because somebody has a thought and transfers that thought upon us doesn't make it true.
Absolutely.
And that's where true discernment, the evaluation of the thought, and does it resonate with the truth of our own heart? And then to be able to go back with the conscious mind and review every memory or every moment from the space of love. What would love do? Is this loving? Is this in the state of being to correct? Yeah, so I'm glad this is being reread today. And it's opening something up. I don't have the answer, but the fact that that statement landed in this reading with what I'm doing right in this moment, to be separate is to be mentally ill. Is to believe you're mentally ill, yeah.
Right, and to be aware that if I have a thought or a negative thought of myself or somebody else, or a negative emotion active in my mind, I can instantly know it's a lie or it's based on a falsehood.
Yeah.
No matter how well structured the logical framework is that leads to this negative conclusion, if it's a negative conclusion, at this level of scale, I know there are some false premises woven in to that logic. So by the time I land over here, it seems really true and honest, and it fits all of this, but it's built on these false assumptions.
Yeah, and you know what's coming into my mind? Way back, I had in university, you had to do computer programming, and you know it was 1 zeros. If this, then this. So if negative, then false.
Exactly.
That's just the binary code that I get to build into this framework.
Yes, if negative.
If negative, then false. That right there can clean up. Yeah, that binary code in that moment. Yeah, I'm excited about that. And also, if thought, I don't know how to say that. It's not love. If thought separation, I guess I'm going to have to sit with that one, because if I'm thinking, I'm really not in love. I am not love. If
you are always love. You are always love.
I'm separate from love. Then
you're not separate from love, you are love.
Yeah.
And if I'm thinking about it, I'm in my thoughts. I'm in my experience inside my head. I'm not in the interaction with the flow of life. And it reminds me, because we have all these subtle bodies, and so I'm floating in the mental mind. Above, that's a symbol. Thinking is a symbol of the experience. It isn't the experience itself. Exactly. So if I'm sitting and thinking, I'm not in the experience of what is, which is love. Exactly. My thoughts about the thing are not the thing.
And that's really landing now. I've heard stuff like that many times, but it was not landing. It's now landed. The eagle has landed.
And the experience I have had as somebody who was raised in this Western culture and raised by really nice and very practically oriented, logical people, and then in the school system that was kindergarten, grade school, high school, college, grad school, all of that, being trained to think there's a right answer out there and I need to get it and memorize it and be able to spit it back when the next situation comes. From that perspective, it has been one of the most challenging things for me has been to get some meat on the bones of the words, I cancel my need to be right. It is just, that's, to the people who raised me and all the people who taught me, that sounds like insanity. It's the opposite of what I was taught all those years in school, whether directly or implicitly. So what can I do? And it's been the biggest challenge for me across the board for the past 20-some years that I've been exposed to this Michael Ryce's work and the other things that I've been digging into over the years. But the biggest challenge is, how do I get some meat on the bones? How do I make it feel like something important to me and feel the truth or see the truth of it? That canceling my need to be right is the doorway to actual knowledge, experiential knowledge, so what the Greeks would call gnosis, right? This felt sense that's doesn't need outside validation.
Yes. What was coming in when you said, cancel my need to be right, what dropped into my mind was right away, I want to be accurate. That's what I said in my head. I want to be accurate. I've been saying, you know, that's also, I guess that's also.
Yeah, you want to be something. Give it up. Because the essence of what you are goes infinitely beyond all your potential thoughts about good and bad and right and wrong and value and.
Yes. Oh, this is so exciting.
You know, we talk about, I frequently raise the poet Rilke and his letters to a young poet, in which he writes, we must learn to live in the question. Now, I'm paraphrasing, right? But he talks about the value of learning to live in the questioning state. And you know, as an essential, like a prerequisite to getting things to go better in our lives, right? To be able to learn and grow in a productive way. And in that thing I was just mentioning, where they were reciting the statistics around how many questions children answer or children ask when they're younger, they tracked a whole series of kids and they just tallied, you know, how many questions they ask, and guess where it drops off precipitously? When they go to school. And when kids are in school, they are told, stop asking questions. This is a time for learning. Literally, that's a quote that a very intelligent, highly questioning second or third grader was told by his or her teacher as they kept asking questions, stop asking questions, this is a time for learning. And it's beautiful because right there, it helps us understand that in our education system, they don't think questioning leads to learning. They've got learning defined as you accept what we pour into you and then spit it back out later. And of course, Dr. Michael Ryce likes to talk about the word education, and he says the root of it is educare, and that means to draw out. So the actual process of education from the ancients, from those far wiser than us, is not sitting in a little box with a desk in front of us and a chair and learning to not move or speak or make too much noise while the experts disseminate what we're supposed to absorb. That's not really what education was intended to be. And it doesn't honor the value of the individual source of this life force, because every child, every person is just another being of brilliance and light, is just another access point to the consciousness of the divine.
And then, you know, what's really landing for me is recognizing exactly that, and being my own sovereign self, sitting inside my own self, coming into presence with myself. And this physiology is the interchange of this experience, and checking in here as I interact out here. And my whole world was the opposite of that. I gave up self and constantly was out here to validate what's in here. And now I've righted that. I'm putting it in its right order. It's in here first, and then I check in what's right for this individuated soul. And being in here and then saying, okay, what do I believe? And I also gave up my own internal compass. My soul's compass was given up at a young age, and we're doing in the codependency, we call it the Power Person Workbook now, and recognizing how I gave up my internal compass, what was true for me. And I'm very excited to be in that space.
Yeah, it's fascinating how many deep teachers from the Eastern traditions base their teaching around the single question, who are you? Now, of course, if you're trying to build followers, if you're trying to build a cult or a church, you really aren't going to get much mileage out of helping people understand the divine flowing through them, and how the divine, the energy of creation, wants to express uniquely through them in each moment. That will, few things other than a bulldozer will demolish your church faster than that. So if you can, without thought involved, but with observation, with awareness, get in touch with that nature, then you're onto something.
Yeah, I'm onto something now. It's only taken 61 rotations around the sun, and how many lifetimes before that. This is a very exciting moment, and the more I rest in the presence of myself in this game of life, the clues show up exactly what I need in the moment to reveal the next clue or open the portal for my own beingness. So, and then I just have to be present to be able to see it, to see them, and having, the eyes to see those clues, the ears to hear what's being said behind the words in some cases. Yeah. So I'm just grateful, Susan, that you brought this up again, and I will go back now and listen to yesterday's, put that on my to-do list. So, and I appreciate you so much, Susan, bringing that forward and having that question. And I loved how at the beginning of the call you referenced evil. And when you said at the beginning, Tim, you introduced this topic again, and how did you word it? Oh, I gotta find it because I wrote that down. Well, basically, when the woman had lived this happy life, or she thought was happy, what she didn't know, that was the shadow part of herself, putting my words in it, the shadow part of herself that had not become conscious yet, which there was this underlying energy within her being that was underneath, which she was finding was labeled as hate, and that she had this deep-rooted hatred within her that was underground.
It goes not too much further in the reading, and the woman in this discussion with Krishnamurti reveals that she's never really looked at the process of hate. And he invites her to look at it and study it the way you would a strange new animal. And then right after he suggests that to her, she says, "My father used to insist that I should not do anything that didn't bring in money." And a little bit later on in her little monologue there, she says, "I used to paint. I used to do it on the holidays. And I wanted to give my life to it, but I didn't." And so it's in that process that Krishnamurti is calling her to look at. So how, in that suppression of what was naturally trying to bubble up out of you, how did you step into the process that you're calling hate, that we would use the word hate to describe? Now, Michael, when he was talking, yesterday or the day before, he was talking about honor thy father and thy mother, and so your days will be long on the planet or whatever. And the meaning of the word hate in that conversation is to be separated from. So look, she has this passion for painting, and she separates herself from it to go along with what her father, who she mentions as a very large, aggressive man, kept telling her. So she separated herself from her own impulse to create and paint, and that's the hatred.
Yeah. And even when Susan was saying about what she said, I could kill somebody, I'm paraphrasing, that, Susan, when you said that, I thought, oh my God, what a beautiful portal with the sensation behind those words that you were experiencing, to dive into that, to see where that leads you on your journey. I felt excitement when you said that. I could just see it's unlocking a key to a whole bunch of layering, that maybe exactly what Tim is saying, and also looking in my own world where I hold. I know resentment is one of mine, and I don't know what's hiding underneath it that was unfulfilled in my journey. But yeah, thank you so much, and I will go back and listen to or that what you guys was occurred yesterday. So yeah, appreciate everyone.
You're welcome and deserving.
Yes, I am.
Susan Bingham just sent me an email about a nasty email she got from the gentleman that she let live in her house, named Michael. And when they finally determined that he'd lived there long enough and he should move on, and they helped find another place for him, etc. Ever since then, he has used her as the external focus of blame for all of his upset, or a lot of his upset.
And you know what? So I say, Susan, this is a beautiful portal, this particular friendly soul. For us, when these show up, it's to take us to those visceral feelings that you have about him and his actions, and find out what is roiling inside you that has not yet been brought conscious. What a gift.
Well, and I would just encourage from another perspective, just the softening and understanding that whatever comes out of a person's mouth is only, always, and forever going to tell you about what's going on inside of them. And so there's deep suffering and pain going on inside this person. Anybody who would call somebody else a name or swear at them or blame them for their pain and suffering. And because I've had so much practice with it and exposure to it, I jump right into the Pierre Pradervan Gentle Art of Blessing, and I say, oh, this it's like if a 3-year-old would come up to me thinking that I'm the one that made them drop their ice cream cone and they hit my leg. I don't rage at the 3-year-old, and I don't reevaluate all my life choices because the 3-year-old is blaming me for their lost ice cream cone. I try to comfort the 3-year-old.
And if we're triggered, though, in the moment, right, if we get triggered by that experience, the outside, let's say the 3-year-old drop-in came at you, did that, and you felt the trigger, then that's our internal work.
Exactly, right? It's both prongs, right? So it's the idea of I'm going to work on dismantling the negative, and I want to work on strengthening and shifting my focus over to the positive. I see myself as a being of brilliance and light. I see this other person as a being of brilliance and light who's either temporarily forgotten or yet to discover their brilliance. And then I engage a process which has me focusing my mind energy on that which I would like to receive. And then sending that. I want to send out only what I would like to receive. This is this whole idea of, in the book, The Gentle Art of Blessing, I believe is the one where he talks about the ancient tradition where people were taught you have a wall, and on your wall are cubby holes that house white birds and blackbirds. But the white birds won't fit in the blackbird holes, and the blackbirds won't fit in the white bird cubby holes. So you want to make real careful consideration before you ever let a blackbird off the chain and out of your wall to send them to somebody else, because now you've got openings where somebody else's blackbirds can come in and drive that negative energy, all of the negative emotional states and the emotional pain. But if you keep your blackbirds at home and you don't send them out to anybody, and all you ever send out are white birds, then you've only got space for the white birds and that loving energy to land in you. So keep sending out the white birds and keep the blackbirds at home, and watch how your life experience shifts. And feel free to come back and update us with reports. But I see we've gone past the end of our time. Michael and Jeanie aren't going to be live today. They're going to do some kind of pre-recorded thing. I don't know if that comes out on the Zoom platform or if it just comes out on Podbean. But I will thank you all for being here, and remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff that we call love. We actually are this energy of life, love, expressing in form, and everything else is false. And oh, by the way, every single time I paid attention and life did not go the way I thought it should, it always worked